Welcome to Raptor Recap, where we take a look at what happened in Raptor Nation for the week of February 2nd, 2020. Punxsutawney Phil didn't see his shadow last weekend, so we are all looking forward to an early spring. Here's to no more snow days. A big shout out to Alexis Turnquist on being selected to wrestle on the 2020 Girls Team Iowa team. Alexis and her teammates will wrestle at the Girls Disney Duels in Orlando, Florida, June 18th through the 23rd. The Western Valley Conference basketball tournament continued on Monday as our girls traveled to Mobile to take on the Wildcats of Woodbury Central. JV girls lost 33-40 and the varsity girls won 53-37. This win took the varsity girls to the Western Valley Conference Tournament Championship on Saturday night, where our girls lost to Kingsley Pearson 53-64. The last regular season game will be Monday night as our girls travel to Storm Lake to take on the Panthers of St. Mary's. Varsity games only, so the girls' game will start at 6 p.m. Regional play will begin for our girls on February 18th at Sioux Rapids. Our boys basketball team finished up Western Valley Conference tournament plays last week as they hosted Woodbury Central on Tuesday night, where JV lost 33-43 and varsity won with the last-second shot from Bo Blackmore, beating the Wildcats 51-50. The Raptors traveled to Sloan on Friday night to finish out the consolation bracket of the Western Valley Conference, where our boys won over Westwood 27-26. Our boys will finish out the regular season this week by playing Monday night at Storm Lake St. Mary's and Friday night at New Waufonda. District play begins February 20th at Correctionville against River Valley. Our high school wrestlers traveled to Sergeant Bluff on Saturday to compete in sectionals. Third place finishers were Jake Bryfokel, Lucas Else, and Xander Ernst. Moving on to districts next weekend in Sheldon, with second place finishes are Jack Henderson and Chance Hansen, and with a first place finish, Logan Pinkinky. Also in wrestling action last week was our Ridgeview Middle School wrestlers' first meet. They traveled to Lawton. Thank you, Dr. Lisa Shepard, for sharing your middle school wrestling photos. Middle school wrestling will travel to Hinton and Manson this week. Our Raptor Archery team had a great evening Friday night at the MMCRU 3D tournament as they had another team high score of 16-58, which gave them their first ever tournament win. Alexis Turnquist finished first with a score of 287, and Cassandra Allen finished third with a score of 284. Alan Brenner placed second for the guys. Way to go, Raptors! Our Speechlets traveled to Lamar's on Saturday to compete in large group state speech contest. Readers Theater, Musical Theater, Mime, and Short Film all received a Division I rating. Improv received a Division II rating. Way to go! Last Monday was the 100th day of school. So much going on in our schools to celebrate. At Galva-Holstein Elementary, Miss Altman's kindergarten class participated in 100th day math stations. They stacked 100 cups, wrote numbers 1 to 100, filled a gumball machine with 100 gumballs, built with 100 marshmallows and toothpicks, and tested how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. They had such a great time completing each center. The TK and preschool students also completed various centers, which included making I'm 100 Days Smarter hats, putting 100 gumballs in a gumball machine, making trail mix with 100 snacks, and stacking 100 cups. Thank you to Mrs. Olsen's class for joining the fun. At Shaler Crestland Elementary, Mrs. Salmon's kindergarten class celebrated the 100th day of school by dressing as if they were 100 years old. They made 100-day hats, ate 100, and made a portrait of themselves as a centenarian. The class rotated through stations and put a 100-piece puzzle together, painted 100 dots, rolled dice, and added the dots to mark off the sums to reach 100. They also worked together to build with 100 cups and used pattern blocks to make 100 and count the blocks used. Everyone had a fun time working together and finding different ways to learn about 100. Miss Ellerbeck's first grade class at Galva-Holstein gave some pretty awesome presentations on Thursday. Mrs. Jensen and Miss Ellerbeck team taught a unit called Spinning Sky. After completing the unit, students worked in groups and recreated different things they had learned about the sky. They presented their finished projects to the class. There are some creatively artistic and articulate students in first grade. Another highlight last week for the class was becoming published authors. They received their book, If I Were an Elf, I Would. Congratulations! Mrs. Maday's 4th grade class in Shaler has been working on equivalent fractions and simplifying fractions. They have also started working on adding and subtracting fractions. The students were given a recipe and had to first find the equivalent fractions to the recipe because they only used a 1/4 teaspoon and a 1/4 cup to measure out the ingredients. When the recipe called for a 1/2 cup of sugar, they had to find out how many 1/4ths they would need to use. They had a really fun time making the cookies, and eating them also. Galvin-Holstein TKers learned about liquids, solids, and gases last week. The students placed their liquid water outside in a cup waiting for the liquid to turn into a solid. They took a solid ice cube and tried to turn it back into a liquid by blowing on it, warming it with their hands, or rubbing it in between paper towels. When they came in from recess, all that precipitation on their paper towels had evaporated. That led to a great discussion about the water cycle. Many giggles were heard as TK was trying to melt those ice cubes. TKers also had Danielle Bennett, the naturalist from the Ida County Conservation, come speak to them about hibernation, migration, and staying active. She read a book called When Winter Comes that talked about the different animals and what they do during the winter. Danielle also played a game similar to musical chairs with the students and also did a groundhog craft. Everyone loves having Danielle in their classroom. On Friday, TKers had a special reader come into their room. Mr. Wiebers came into the class and read, "There was a cold lady who swallowed some snow." There was no fooling these smarties. They all predicted that there would be a snowman at the end of the story. And, spoiler alert, they were right. The Spanish 4 students, along with their instructor Dave Hickman, took their annual field trip to Storm Lake to practice authentic Spanish with native speakers. They ate lunch at Plaza Mexico, where the rule is, if you don't order in Spanish, you don't eat. The servers and manager are happy to play along and make the students speak to them in Spanish. The trip was on Nathan Yaki's 18th birthday, so he got the full birthday treatment. A free sopapilla and a free face full of whipped cream. Everyone had a good time. Mrs. Olsen's Foods 2 class were practicing their baking skills last week. They started the week by making biscuits from scratch. Adding a little apple butter to the freshly baked biscuits had everyone agreeing that the biscuits were delicious. At the end of the week, their next baking challenge was strawberry shortcake. Not only did they make the shortcake, but they also made the whipped cream, by hand, without a mixer. Needless to say, this was truly a labor of love. Whipping that cream by hand for 10 minutes until it turned light and fluffy was not really enjoyed by anyone, but the finished product of the sweet whipped cream certainly was worth the effort. Mrs. Bisenius' history classes got a first-hand account of the Korean War on Thursday. Korean War veterans Verdine Brenner and Dale Meyer generously came in to talk to the students, answer questions about the Korean War, and also talk about their time in the military. We are so fortunate to have such generous people in our communities who are willing to give of their time to share their experiences and educate our students. Thank you for watching this week's episode of Raptor Recap. We appreciate the continued positive support from our parents, communities, and fans. Working together, we will provide a bright future for all of our students.